Today we're going to be looking at the Aurum Sentinel Pro Expert Advisor. So this one initially caught my attention because you can't buy it outright. It's only based on subscription. And when I find that developers offer bots on a subscription basis or via an IB, they generally have a lot of belief in them because obviously people won't keep paying you if it's not good. Therefore, you generally, it creates good aligned incentives. That's another one of the reasons why we offer a lot of bots via our IB, just because it usually means you have confidence in the bot which you're pushing. So this gentleman here has developed a bot for gold based on fair value gaps, and he's very explicit with the exact strategy behind it. And that's good because oftentimes developers in the MQL5 marketplace will try and kind of hide everything and just AI jargon drop, but don't actually tell you what the real strategy is. Whereas this gentleman is being fairly, he's very open, saying hey, it works on 5 time frames simultaneously. Your entry signal is based on bullish and bearish fair value gaps, and there's a few different filters here, such as a trend filter. It uses a chandelier exit and an ATR-based trailing stop. There's ADX and EMA filters, and there's also some timeline filters. So frankly, he's being very open in terms of what the actual strategy is. He has written this sales page with ChatGPT for some reason, because these emojis are usually a pretty telltale sign that he's done that. But perhaps he just put a paragraph or something into ChatGPT and said, hey, give me a nice sales page so that I'm able to best present it to folks. And what we can see is that it does indeed look to be a real bot. There's no crazy straight line equity curve or anything that looks too silly. The gentleman also has a real website here where he seems to be a bit more he has a bit of an online presence. You can see about us. That looks to be him, but perhaps with a bit of an AI picture of him. And it's always good when you kind of have a face behind the name, because it means that another just kind of signal that the developer has confidence in the product which they're offering. And unfortunately, there's no actual signal here. So that's kind of a bit of a downside, but I suppose because you can test it out fairly cheaply for just 1 month, if you like the style of system, you can kind of get it at a fairly low initial commitment. At first glance, it's good to see that there's a real strategy here. However, one of the big kind of caveats is that there's also just a lot of different filters. So if he has ADX, EMA, obviously a fair value gap entry, and it only works on gold, there's always a kind of a potential for overfitting, particularly if you also have a time filter, you have different entries, you have different exits. You're starting to have quite a few parameters here. And this is really when a developer needs to be careful to ensure that they're optimizing in a non-overfit, very robust way. So the reason why I like to personally develop systems which are usually very simple technically, but have a good fundamental driver behind them, is it really protects you a lot against overfitting. Whereas anytime somebody is more purely hyper technical with tons of parameters, you got to be careful about stuff like this. So I'm curious to see actually how it's turned out. So here I ran a back test over a 1-year period on gold on the Vantage Broker, and this indeed looks like a real equity curve, nothing too crazy. It's opening a fair amount of positions, but not insane, and it's over the span of a year, it made around 10% profit with a 5% drawdown, which is pretty okay. That's a 2-to-1 return over max drawdown. So definitely realistic. It's not an amazing equity curve actually. It's kind of it's reasonably mediocre, but could actually be used as kind of a good diversifying system into a broader trading strategy. In terms of the fair value gap, there could be referring to this, and I'd have to know what time frame he's actually running it on, because the issue is he's running it on so many time frames. It would be a little bit hesitant to, or it would be a little bit more challenging to actually ascertain where to actually see the real fair value gap, because it could be running on the M5, on the M15, on the M30. So let's take him at his word there. The one thing which I find a bit kind of risky here is for each time frame, he's only picking certain days. So that wouldn't really make any sense. Why are you only picking the H4 on Thursday, but then the M30 on Monday, and then also having 2 different trend filters here, perhaps having a few different settings in terms of your, let me see if I can practice my German here. Early break even, activate, distance in US dollars until the actual break even kicks in. fixed lot, obviously. Debug modus, so like the debug mode for stop loss. Fehlersuche, so error finding, I believe is that in German. Except I speak horrible German, so perhaps somebody can correct me. But there appears to be quite a few different settings here. So like there are some debug ones, there are some manual things, there's some filters, and most importantly, there's a ton of time frames where he's kind of cherry picking the days. So that's kind of a risk factor. Overall, it certainly looks like there's a real strategy here. Like it doesn't look in any way manipulated, because frankly, it's a pretty like just okay equity curve. Therefore, that's usually a sign that it's not over-optimized, it's not like manipulated or anything, because if you were to manipulate it, why would you not make it look good or great and just okay, right? Simultaneously, the one big caveat here, which I'm a bit hesitant to see, is that because there are so many different potential filters or day of week filters on different time frames, that's just adding way too many obscure filters, and it seems like it may have been over optimized after the fact, because there's no logic as to why you would run one time frame on certain days whereas another on different days. So maybe he has a reasoning behind it, but to me it seems like he may have cherry picked some data. But overall, looking pretty solid. It could be a fantastic system. Like, I have no idea why he chose to make certain kind of decisions or views versus another. So it could be worth just asking him about that and kind of get an idea behind the logic behind it. But that's kind of a risk factor which I'm seeing. Oh, so I guess we do need to run it on the H4. So wichtig, dieser IE muss auf H4 chart. Okay, so let's try that. And perhaps we are going to get some different results if we do that. Just as a final double check to make sure, because he did say in the actual sales page that you can run it on 5 different time frames, but at least from the error messages we're getting, perhaps we should actually run it on the H4. So let's see if it makes a difference here. Let me quickly pause the video and be back once this runs. Okay, we're back, and it didn't really make a difference, but still good to just double check to make sure that we're putting out the most accurate information as possible. So really, to wrap up this video, there's definitely a real strategy here. There's so many filters that it's making me a bit apprehensive. However, if he has a reasoning behind it, it could very well be a solid strategy. So guys, I do think that it's definitely worth looking a bit more into it, especially as $80 is not really a huge cost for a potentially good EA. So it could be worth just reaching out to the guy and asking some questions. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.